The 2026 offseason was an interesting one to say the least, and it's still going. Here are my favorite moves on the AFC side. If you aren't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and also go drop a follow on my TikTok. Going live pretty much every day this summer. Anywho, let's get into these AFC offseason moves that are my favorite. Now, I also think they're the best, but I'm going to just be safe and say favorite. Starting off in the AFC East, starting off with the Buffalo Bills, DJ Moore, that trade, getting that number one receiver for Josh Allen. Me personally, I would rather DJ Moore as a 2, but out of all of their offseason moves, this one moves the needle for me the most. If you watched the Buffalo Bills last year, you saw how atrocious that receiving room looked. Khalil Shakir, he had a decent year. He didn't look like the same Khalil Shakir we saw the previous year, but he was serviceable. But you needed a 1 to sit there and pretty much become that go-to guy when you need it. Who am I looking for? They did not have that, and now they got that with DJ Moore, and I really like that move for them. Heading to New England, my favorite move for them was Caleb Lamu, their first round pick in this year's draft. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they start him at right tackle. But if I'm the Patriots, I probably would try to play him at left tackle and move Will Campbell into the guard position. Will Campbell struggled at parts of last season, but at the same time, Will Campbell, young left tackle, he has the potential to be one of the best in the league. And left tackle, to me, is the second most important position in football. So I understand how hard it could be, really just coming from college ball into the NFL game. So I wouldn't be mad if they gave him another offseason. However, this is a Patriots team that just came off of a Super Bowl run, and obviously they aren't trying to regress. So I wouldn't be mad if they tried to put in another left tackle and move Will Campbell into the guard position. Next, the New York Jets. Now, I have 2 here. The first one, Demario Davis. Doesn't make sense. This year, I don't expect the Jets to be very good. This is just not a very good roster, not a very talented roster. However, for Aaron Glenn, what I think is very important is setting a culture. And I think he set part of a culture last year, but this year you want to see improvement within the team, but at the same time, with the talent he has, doesn't really look all that plausible. I think the signing of Demario Davis is really a culture changing signing. You bring in a guy who's hard-nosed, great teammate, great player, and I feel like Demario Davis, if the Jets can turn it around under Aaron Glenn, we look at Demario Davis and we look at him as that guy, that locker room guy who helped change the culture in New York, because as we know it right now, it's not a very rich culture whatsoever. But as far as actual production, my favorite offseason move for the New York Jets was the drafting of D'Angelo Ponce. Smart corner. Might be a bit undersized, but for the lack of size, he makes up for it everywhere else. His physicality, his willingness to tackle, very smart. Coming off of that Indiana Hoosiers team that just won the national championship. I think, talking about culture, I think guys like D'Angelo Ponce is very crucial to helping change the culture, especially within the youth side of that locker room. And last, I'm not going to say not least, I don't know who's going to be least between the Dolphins and the Jets. But anywho, my favorite move that the Dolphins made this offseason is Jacob Rodriguez. He showed a lot of flashes last year in college. he had a really good year. One of the best linebackers in the nation. And similar to what the Jets are doing, I think this is a big culture change too, because when I think of the Dolphins over the past couple of years, I think of a soft, finesse football team. I think with guys like Ali Gordon and Jacob Rodriguez, that they bring that hard-nosed football. You know, they bring back that physical football that I think the Dolphins really need in their locker room. Obviously, I could have went Malik Willis, and he would have been the move if they would have gave him a better foundation. I think out of all the quarterbacks in the league, Malik Willis has the worst foundation. I think he's been set up with the worst foundation. On to the good old dirty AFC North. Who doesn't love AFC North football? Down, gritty, dirty football. Going to start off with the terrible towels themselves, a.k.a. the Pittsburgh Steelers. My favorite move for them this offseason was trading for Michael Pittman Jr. Not only did they trade for him, they signed him to a very, very team-friendly contract. I believe his contract is right under $20 million a year. It might be right at it. Anywho, that is great value for Michael Pittman Jr., who isn't really just going to knock your socks off as far as the production level, but for what, the way I think of it, DK Metcalf is essentially, him and Alec Pierce are two of the same to me, because I feel like they are both big body receivers who don't, let me slow myself down, because Alec Pierce actually plays with his size. Anywho, Alec Pierce actually plays like he's 6'3", 6'4". DK, I feel like he plays more like a finesse receiver. He plays more like a slot. Who better to have on the opposite side of him than a Michael Pittman Jr., who is willing to do all the dirty work across the middle of the field, take the hits. You know, if you need a chance down the field, I would like my chances with Michael Pittman Jr. because he is a big body receiver. I think he is one of the better contrasts to DK Metcalf. And also, when you look at that Steelers offense last year, plenty of times, if you take DK out of the game, unless it was Darnell Washington or Kenneth Gainwell out of the backfield, that pass game died out with DK Metcalf. So I think my favorite move from them was getting Michael Pittman Jr. this offseason. As far as the Cleveland Browns, them reshaping that O-line unit, which was horrible last year. You can make the argument that the quarterbacks held the ball too long, but at the same time, that offensive line was bad. So whoever plays quarterback, they are behind the offensive line that is revamped and has added a bunch of depth. And I think, like I said, whoever plays quarterback, at least you know that you are protected. So that's my favorite move from them, just revamping the entire offensive line. Also, not trying to be a negative Nancy, but I did see the news today that JOK won't be playing 2026. Hopefully he gets that figured out by next season, 2027. Great talent, leader of that defense, arguably the best. Forgot about Miles. One of the core guys on that defense. They'll miss him very much next year. Hopefully he gets it together, and hopefully they figure out a solution, because I don't want him going down as a what if, because when he's on the field, he's very impactful. He's very hard to miss. So prayers go out to JOK and his family. As far as the next team, the Cincinnati Bengals, my favorite move for them, Brian Cook by far. I mean, the value they got for Brian Cook, I believe it was a 3-year, $40.5 million deal. Brian Cook is one of the better young safeties in the league. And not only did you get Brian Cook, you poached him away from the Kansas City Chiefs, which is also a positive, because let's say the Chiefs and the Bengals, they both make it back to the playoffs. You took away one of their core guys and you brought them over to your defense. And I think Brian Cook is going to help solidify that secondary. It's obviously going to take much more than him to not only solidify that secondary, but the defense. But the Bengals made moves all throughout that defense, and Brian Cook is one of the premier moves that they made that I enjoy the most from their offseason. And as far as the Baltimore Ravens, Vega Iwane, hopefully I didn't butcher his name. It was like a match made in heaven. I mean, the Ravens lost their right guard, Infalele. Why not just plug and play with Vega Iwane, who is arguably the best guard coming out of the draft? Yeah, I really don't have much to say. It's just going to be a perfect plug and play. Wouldn't be surprised if he makes a couple All-Pros in his career in that system. But next, moving on to the AFC South. We're going to start with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who really didn't do much this offseason. However, the one move that they did make that I feel is going to be very underrated is going ahead and re-signing Trayvon Walker. It was a huge deal, yes. That's just the NFL landscape nowadays. But going ahead and solidifying Trayvon Walker, I've seen it too many times where franchises will see a player perform on his rookie contract. It's time for negotiations, and instead of going ahead and extending that player, they play the long game. That player performs again the next year, the price tag goes up even more, and then now it's franchise tag battles year in and year out, and then that player might eventually just walk. So I think the Jaguars going ahead and re-signing Trayvon Walker was their best move this offseason. It's a Jaguars team that is looking to not only be playoff contenders but Super Bowl contenders, and I believe that they're confident in their roster, and this is one of their core guys. So this is my favorite move. As far as the Houston Texans invested a lot of capital into that offensive line. Easily my favorite move from them. Whether it was through the draft or free agency, they not only did they revamp the starting offensive line, but they gained a lot of depth. So now, if the offensive line just plays decently, the biggest question for them, can CJ Stroud get back at least a fragment of what he was in his rookie year? That's going to be the biggest question. Is he going to be able to regain his confidence? If not, then you're probably looking for another quarterback next year, to be honest. But my favorite move is them revamping that offensive line easily. For the Indianapolis Colts, it was drafting Georgia linebacker C.J. Allen. On film, he pops. Smart player. He usually beats players to their spots, and he's usually in the backfield. A sure tackler, plays with the level of speed that defense could use, especially after losing Zaire Franklin, who was a tackling machine for them. But, C.J. Allen should be able to fill in, be able to play a huge role on that defense from day one, and essentially fill in the spot of Zaire Franklin while adding more youth and being on a better contract. So that's my favorite move for the Indianapolis Colts. I think that's a good draft pick that can I can see the Colts reaping the fruit of their labor from now until whenever he leaves the Colts or for the rest of his career. As far as the Tennessee Titans, this is a team that had amongst the most cap space in the league. They had the number 4 overall pick. There's plenty of places you could go with this. Carnell Tate. You could go Cordell Flott, Alante Taylor. I went with Wan'Dale Robinson. I love that move for them, to be honest. And it didn't cost too much. I think Wan'Dale is making right under $20 million a year. It's a beautiful contract for both sides. I think both sides are going to both sides are winners, in my opinion. For the Titans, right, you get Wan'Dale Robinson, one of the best slots in the league. You could argue the best slot in the league. Immediate winner. Not really a speed demon, but his route running and just the playmaker he is with the ball in his hands. Wan'Dale Robinson is an underrated piece that I think a lot of people are going to overlook and probably forget by the beginning of the season, that he's going to open a lot of people's eyes. And for Wan'Dale Robinson, you get the contract. Not only do you get the contract, you reunite with Coach Daboll, and now you have Carnell Tate on the outside. That should take pressure off of you. You should get a lot more one-on-one opportunities. You probably was going to get that anyways, but it's much different if there is no Carnell Tate or someone on the outside that takes the spotlight off of you a bit. So, also for Cam Ward, this is huge. Giving him a slot receiver, the quarterback's best friends could be many people. One of them is also a slot receiver, someone who could win quick underneath. You can get the ball in their hands, and you could trust them to turn a 5-yard dig into a 20-yard gain. You could throw a screen at the line of scrimmage and trust them to. You don't know how far they might go, but a lethal slot receiver just adds so much to an offense, and I believe that's what Wan'Dale Robinson is going to do. I really love that pickup for the Titans. Last division, we have the AFC West. Whew. For the Kansas City Chiefs, Mansour Delane, match made in heaven. It's a match made in heaven. I mean, I don't really see how this can fail. He has all the intangibles. He obviously has the talent. He has the potential to become one of the best corners in the league. And he's going to a system and a defensive coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo that really develops his corners well. Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, Charvarius Ward, you could keep naming them. He does an amazing... That defense as a whole, they just do an amazing job developing corners. It's a two-way street, though, because while the corners play amazing, that defense, the fronts that they give offenses confuses the offensive line, and that allows the DBs to feast off of that because the quarterbacks have to get the ball out of their hands fast. At the same time, it's a lot of man-to-man. It's a lot of mano-y-mano. If you get beat, you're beat for the most part. But there's no other corner in this draft that I thought would have filled in better for not only Jalen Watson, but also Trent McDuffie, then Mansour Delane. I love that pickup. Now, whether or not they should have traded up to 6 for him, you can make that argument. Obviously, they thought probably the Commanders were going to draft him, or someone within that 7 to 9 range was probably going to draft him. However, it's a match made in heaven in my eyes. Moving on to the Las Vegas Raiders. What they did with that linebacker room is amazing. Not only did they add quality linebackers, they added youth, they added speed, they added a level of aggressiveness that I feel like is kind of the epitome of a Raider. When you think about the Raiders in the Al Davis days, just win, and I feel like Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker, I think they are going to work well. Like I said, they're both young. You got them on really good deals. Nakobe Dean is on a 3-year, $36 million deal. Quay Walker's on a 3-year, $40.5 million deal. Got them both on amazing deals. They're both young, arguably finna hit the prime of their careers. There's the only issues with them. Quay has to stay on the field, whether it's injuries or just keeping his composure. And as far as Nakobe, he has to stay on the field. Also, that's injuries. But the thing about Nakobe, the thing that I love about it, right? Nakobe is that leader on the defense, and I feel like if Quay gets out of hand, I feel like Nakobe is definitely going to be there saying, hey, man, we need you. We need you in this game, man. And another underrated aspect, they both played at Georgia together. So, with that being said, they already know each other. They know how to play off each other. I'm pretty sure they could pick up where they left off. I just love the move for the Raiders, revamping that linebacker room and trying to create a defensive identity. As far as the Denver Broncos, this was a team that did literally nothing. in free agency, had a very small draft. You know where I'm finna go with this. Jalen Waddle, right? It was a Broncos team that many think would have went to the Super Bowl with a healthy Bo Nix. I can't argue against that. Yeah, so when you look at the Broncos, that wide receiver room was already really good, in my opinion, with Cortland, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, Lil Jordan Humphrey. But when you sit here and you add a Jalen Waddle, who is a bona fide 2, you could argue he's the 1. Really is 1A, 1B. I feel like him and Cortland are pretty much in the same area. But when you add that level of speed, yet another, you add that level of speed, but also that level of talent in that wide receiver room, it just makes that team much more dangerous. It gives you another weapon that, let's say not Jordan, but Cortland's son goes down. You have that next go-to guy. You have that guy that you expect in the big moments. This is my guy. And I like the move. I love the move, really, to be honest. It didn't cost much. It cost the 29th, 30th overall pick. It cost the late first round pick. You're expecting to be Super Bowl contenders. I mean, you just don't sit on picks if you're a Super Bowl contender. You take your chances and you go, and that's exactly what they did here. And I love that move for them. Last but not least, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. My favorite move, similar to the Browns and similar to the Texans. O-line depth. Look, you can make the argument. They have the best tackle duo in the league, and Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. Both of those guys, for some reason, they find a way to get injured. That whole team really finds a way to get injured, but I'm going to just key in on the offensive line. So what do the Chargers do? Let those guys rehab, and they go crazy offensively. Offensive line-wise. I'm talking about, I think they picked up 2 in the draft and like 3 out of free agency. They pretty much said, look, for some reason we can't escape the injury reaper. So you know what? We could battle against them. We're just going to build our depth. If someone goes down, you should be able to step up. We should have more than enough guys, and I can't be mad at them for it. Maybe y'all need to fire y'all's strength and conditioning coach or something. I don't know what's going on. It's been like this for like the past 3-4 years. But however, they rebuilt that offensive line depth. Hopefully that means Justin Herbert can stay healthy throughout the season. And hopefully that means by the time the playoffs come, the Chargers, offensive line-wise, quarterback-wise, just all over the place. But offensive line-wise, stays healthy and they have enough depth to compete when it comes playoff time. Obviously, if you enjoyed the video, subscribe, like, comment, share. Don't be selfish. Like I said earlier, go to the TikTok. Like that. We out.